There are so many instances in the last 4 years where the BJP never respected the parliament. Now, why should anybody respect the inauguration of the parliament? All the judges wrote a letter to him. We do not want scepter to be carried. It's a colonial practice. I have a copy of the letter. I can show it to you. 14 judges wrote to V. Ramaswamy, who was the Chief Justice of Punjab, that this is a colonial practice. We have stopped this practice long ago. There are several practices even in the judiciary which are feudal, not given up. Now you can't say it's a culture. Where do you get this culture? Tirukural merely used the word Sengol. Sengol means scepter. So the word in Tamil is only an index or a pointer to say there is a good rule, as opposed to bad rule. Kodungol means bad rule. Sengol means good rule.
India's new parliament building is set to be inaugurated on the 28th of May by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. There is already a lot of controversy surrounding this, with opposition parties asking why is the Prime Minister and not the President inaugurating. They've even called for a boycott. Then there is a new layer of controversy after the government announced that a Sengol will be handed over to the Prime Minister. Joining me to discuss this and more is Justice Chandru, former judge of the Madras High Court, who during his time at the court had done away with a lot of colonial symbolism. Thank you very much, Justice Chandru, for joining us at the News Minute. The opposition has said that they will boycott the parliament inauguration. Do you think this augurs well for a democracy?
It is not as worse than as BJP boycotting for Rahul's expulsion from the parliament. In fact, it's a most civilized way of the opposition coming together and then showing their protest. In fact, it is also a Karnataka spirit. It is only after the Karnataka results now the opposition feels that it is the time for them to come together.
Justice Chandru, there are many who believe that the opposition may be right, that the president should have inaugurated the building, but this boycott call is a bit extreme and that people will not understand this as a political gesture. Do you also see it that way?
It's since more than a week where people have registered their protest that the president is not being invited to inaugurate the parliament building. There is no official explanation from the BJP till now. They are hiding and giving different slogans. They have not come out with the issue why Prime Minister should invite and not the President, number one. Number two, is there any hidden agenda behind it? Thirdly, when they themselves do not believe in parliamentary democracy and rushing bills as they feel like and getting assent from the President without referring to the Rajya Sabha several bills, where the Supreme Court has pointed out that it was an illegal thing to have passed it as a money bill. There are so many instances in the last 4 years where the BJP never respected the parliament. Now, why should anybody respect the inauguration of the parliament?
The Hindu newspaper's editorial actually says that reducing this entire thing into a bipartisan event is bad optics. So, do you think that in all this back and forth, allegations and counter allegations, it's actually the people and our democracy that is losing out?
It is no doubt 100% partisan, because a person who builds the building cannot own the building. When they started the corridor project, there were some opposition about destroying the environmental of Delhi. But today, when the building is being inaugurated, they should have respected everybody under the constitution. Under the constitution, parliament means the president and the two houses of parliament. And you ignore one person for reasons not revealed till now. And therefore, the Hindu editorial is absolutely correct editorial. I don't think that they ever realize what they are doing is wrong.
And what is your opinion about the symbolism which is being attached to this entire event? That is Sengol, which the government says dates back to the Chola era, a replica of it rather, would be handed to the Prime Minister in an act of symbolism. How do you see that?
This was the biggest joke that they were inventing. We do not know what really happened in Independence. There may be some rituals must have been followed, but it is not a healthy ritual. In fact, the scepter has been even used in England. You saw the Charles coronation. He was having a scepter, and then he was also having the diamond studded Kohinoor crown. And India has been demanding for a long time it should be returned to India. And why is that Modi is not asking for the crown? Then he can become a monarch. In fact, In England, the UK, the king is only a titular head. Similarly, we have a titular head like president. We have formed a Westminster model. The president may not have all the powers of a prime minister. In fact, only after the 42nd Amendment, the prime minister and the cabinet became more important to the president. Otherwise, she or he is the head of the state, and they preside over the parliament, and they are also the supreme commander of all the armed forces in India. In that way, we respect the status of a president. And then if you don't call, you should explain why you are not calling. You can't just treat them like a doormat.
During your time at the Madras High Court, you had done away with some of the symbolism, especially the colonial symbolism where the staff carries the mace and walks around. So, in that perspective, too, how do you view this entire development?
As I told you earlier, that if there are number of judges in Madras High Court are 75, sanctioned strength, but actually strength is only about 65. Each person, there is a chopdar. The chopdar carries the silver mace and brings it back. Morning he comes from our chamber, goes to the court. From court he returns to the chamber. Then the afternoon we come back, he goes before us. And then he was shouting, sus, sus, like that, be silent. He never used the word, he only making the hissing noise. Then the evening he comes back. His salary is around some 40,000 rupees. You multiply 70% into 40,000 per month, and then multiply by year-wise, and then you have a pension, termination, everything. Several crores are spent on a tradition which is introduced by the British. Most of the high courts in India do not carry the scepter. Like that, Punjab, once upon a time, when the Lahore was headquarters, they were following. When V. Ramasamy in 1990 tried to introduce the scepter, all the judges have protested. I have read that letter, I have got a signed copy of all the judges, which says, we do not want this colonial practice to be followed. As opposed to that Ramasamy saying, we must follow healthy tradition. My question is, in a poor country like this, in the name of healthy tradition, you are only spending money, huge amounts, on some 70 jobdar, morning and evening carrying and coming back. And whose vanity that you are satisfying? It is because of the reason I gave an order that there no scepter shall be carried when I go to the court or come back. So I got it locked up in the treasury, and I used to go without the presence of any person even preceding me. I used to go to the court and come back like anybody else. When I go and sit the chair, I become a judge, that's all. Otherwise, I am also one of the person in the compound only. So they must have a healthy tradition. I think after me, one or two judges said no. But then everybody wants this so-called feudal practice. Whereas the fundamental duty of the constitution says all the obnoxious practices should be given up. But we do not have. The spirit of freedom should be kept in mind. Spirit of freedom is a simplicity, austerity. But then you have the opposite of that being followed.
But Justice Chandru, to anyone who is opposed this symbolism, the government's retort has been that you are against Hindu culture, you are against Tamil culture in particular.
There is nothing like a Hindu culture or a Christian culture. If you consider England as a Christian country, then it should be considered as a Christian culture and not a Hindu culture. And secondly, there is no religion. If people want to behave funnily, let them behave funnily. But they should not claim it was a cultural symbol of particular religion. I don't think the Cholas were, before they were Buddhists, they were also Hindus. So which culture they are talking about? Now when you talk about culture, one of the requirement is not a sudden invention of a culture. It should have a continuous practice in the society. It was only after the British the scepter became important. And you saw Charles III when he was coronated recently, he was holding a scepter. Other than Charles III, it is Shankaracharyas who are holding some sticks only and not a scepter, it's a stick. And then who designed this? What is the metal used it? For example, Madras High Court, all the judges carry. I protested saying you should not have this practice, but other judges liked it. It may be made of silver or some other mixed metal. But there are some people who carry on this. Then I wrote a letter to the Chief Justice that if 65 people carry the scepter and come back, only used for that purpose, you are using government money for engaging these people. We have a chopdar. Now suddenly they showed one woman carrying. So every paper said women's chopdar carrying this. There is nothing important whether women or men. It's a sheer waste of money. In a country like this, you can't have 65 people carrying this up and down only 2 times a day and then pay some 50,000 rupees as a salary for this purpose. Such pompous glory, which should be excused. There is no question of. That is why I am saying, if there is a healthy tradition, you follow the tradition. Today we are using the term my lord. But then we said no need for my lord. Bar Council says no need for my lord. But then do judges expect this my lord? There are several practices even in the judiciary which are feudal, not given up. Now you can't say it's a culture. Where do you get this culture? The Saivite Swamijis who gave this advice, they don't believe in owning anything. In fact, they shave the head, they put Rudraksha, and some people grow the hair, never cut it off. But they live with 2 clothes. If Swamijis of the Saivite Mutt practice such austerity, will they ever put a golden scepter for somebody else? These are all drama which people have. Suppose you ask somebody else, what is the practice? They must have a historical evidence. Now they go to Tirukural. Tirukural merely use the word Sengol. Sengol means scepter. It's only an index for a good rule, a benevolent king, not a despot. Never about any metal being carried in the particular fashion. I don't think in the period of Tirukural there were any kings wearing scepter. So the word in Tamil, it's only an index or a pointer to say there is a good rule, as opposed to bad rule. Kodungol means bad rule. Sengol means good rule. That's the only difference. It's only a word play. Nothing to do with any scepter in this form.
The Sengol, as it's recorded in Tamil history, Tamil literature, talks about a just rule, a just king. So, what the opposition has been asking the government is this a just rule? Have you not played with the sanctity of the parliament? Have you not eroded the sanctity of the parliament? Would you agree with the opposition?
Now the question will be, the opposition boycott is not for inventing the scepter for the function. The opposition point is a principal question. In a democracy, you should respect the democratic setup. Even though the president may be a formal head, she represents the state, not the prime minister. In fact, she has the power to dismiss the prime minister also. Now in that situation, if you say there is a healthy tradition, you should only follow the tradition of inviting the president. So the opposition is only demanding respect the democratic tradition, not a feudal tradition.
Thank you very much, Justice Chandru, for sharing your views with us. And to all those watching our interviews and reports on the News Minute, do keep supporting us, do subscribe to our YouTube channel, and do become a member of the News Minute. Thank you.